Hey everyone, Eric Hayden here on YouTube. Really appreciate the new subscribers. We're getting a lot of folks that have subscribed to the channel because of that video we did on why you should deadhead, how and when. So this video today is going to go over some of the stuff we're doing behind me, and that is deadheading. If you saw our last video, working real hard, unexpected trip out of town, so the roses kind of got away from us. So now we're deadheading. And in the last video, I mentioned while it's important to keep away disease and pests and also to control your growth, making bigger blooms, more frequent blooms, you don't have to do it. If you, it's not something I want you to be afraid of. Just go out there and try it. It can be good for the bush. If you forget to do it or fall behind, we showed you in the last video, Mother Nature has been deadheading, plants for a long time before we got out there with pruners, so the plant will still be okay. Today I want to talk about two quick things with deadheading. In the video on deadheading basics, I'll link that below. We recorded it last year. That will be your primer, your baseline. So watch that first if you've never deadheaded before. This other video, I want to talk about some other things to consider once you get the basic steps down. And this was inspired by a comment we got today on, hey, I got a new rose, should I deadhead it? And the answer is yes, you should. Any size rose, it's good to deadhead. And again, that's removing the old blooms when they get to be like this. And then you're avoiding the petals falling off like that. If they harbor any disease or insects, it will stay in your garden. If you don't do anything, the petals will fall off and Mother Nature will send out new shoots. However, with deadheading, you can control where the growth goes and you can control what your blooms may look like down the road. And this is what I mean by that. We will use this as an example. If you do nothing, again, shoots will start to come out at the first couple sets of leaves, and sometimes they'll come way out at the top, and near the top, just under where the bloom was, is very thin. So this cane is going to be small. As a result, the bloom usually tends to be small as well. I've already seen that on some of mine. Hybrid tea roses that are 3, 4, 5 inches across are only a couple inches across, almost like miniature roses. So that's what happens if you don't deadhead. Again, not a huge deal. There are canes coming out farther down the bush, but by controlling where you prune, you can kind of avoid all of this. So the general rule is to go down to the first set of 5 leaves. Here you can see it's a much more dominant bud eye that's coming out. And so if I were to have made this prune a couple weeks ago, you come down here, you want to cut at a right angle, or a 45-degree angle, excuse me, and you want an outward facing bud. I wouldn't be too worried about that, but the whole point is if you have one that's kind of going toward the inside of the plant could get crowded. If you go down to the first set of 3 or 5 leaves, something really substantial where the cane is getting wider, and you pick an outside bud, this cane is going to go away from the center of the bush and help keep it a little more disease free. So we mentioned in the priming video, again, 3, 5 leaves depending on what you're looking for. If you have a really tall bush, like some of the bushes in my garden that are tall, I'm going to go down to a set of 5 leaves because they could stand to have a little pruning. The question I got was, on a new bush, can you deadhead? And you can, but I'm much more selective how far down I go. For example, on a new bush, a lot of times I will just clip them right where the old cane comes down, and I'll clip it right there. And the reason why I do that, you might say, well, hey, it's very thin there. I thought you wanted to prune lower and get big canes. With a young bush, I want to keep as many leaves as possible. So it really depends on what you do. So for you newbies that have new roses, just come down and just take the dead blooms off. Don't worry about inside, outside buds, 3, 5 leaves, just remove the bushes. Once they become more mature, then you can say, okay, hey, this is a big healthy cane. I'm not going to prune up here at the top. You see how thin this cane is up at the top? I'm going to come down until the leaves get bigger. Do I want to do this set of leaves? No, because it's facing the inside. I'm going to pick this, I'm going to cut there, and then you're good to go. That's if you have a nice mature bush. So pretty quick video today. Again, just emphasizing deadheading can help if you can pick an outside facing bud. And what we mean by that is if you find a set of 3 or 5 leaves, there's a little dormant bud eye in there. Let me try to focus right there. And if you get one that's facing out, instead of in toward the center of the bush. That will help the bush from getting super crowded. If it's a young bush, just take off the blooms. Don't worry about going down too far. I'll give you another example to show you the difference. More mature bushes, you can prune a little harder by going down, you know, even a couple sets of leaves. It's really up to you what you want to do. So this is Crescendo, just deadheaded. It's a newer bush, so I pretty much just took off the cane down to the first set of leaves, whatever it was. So in this case, it was a set of 3, and you can see the bud eye there. Other cases, there's still a bud there, and I just left it pretty long. So I left as many leaves, really all the leaves. I didn't take away any with my pruning because it's a young bush. Now this has been here for a couple years. This is Claire Elise, much more established. So I'm going to prune this a little harder. And what I like to do sometimes is just grab the cane and then pull it back and then see what I'm working with. So for example, if I'm pruning this, I'll kind of pull it back. Oh, that one fell off. I'll pull it back, see if I can identify an area that I might want to prune, and I might pick one of these lower sets of leaves and prune it a little harder since the bush has been established. I tend to do that more when we're in the cooler season, heading into the fall, and I might be getting ready for a row show, because the lower you go down on the bush, the stronger the cane usually is, because it's emanating from a thicker part of the original stem. In the summertime, I tend to prune very light because you know, you might lose leaves because of black spot or spider mites, and I really want as much growth as possible. I'll end this video to show you what happens if you don't deadhead. Not the end of the world, but I noticed this with folklore. I didn't get out here. Really tiny buds. You know, there's a couple bigger ones, but really tiny buds because I did not deadhead. So we had a spindly cane come off the top, and these are just, I probably just bud these because they're just not going to turn into big blooms. You can see the blooms are very small because I did not deadhead, and you know, Mother Nature picked just to throw up some blooms on spindly canes. Whereas if you get in there and you prune a little lower, you'll have some sturdier canes from which the blooms can emanate. Looking in the garden, a couple other things to point out. Look at these big canes, lots of new green growth. I don't know how well you can see that on this video. I've noticed that on a bunch of bushes. Here's another one coming from the base of the plant. Real new cane. That's good growth. Really good signs of growth in the garden. And that's what you're looking for in the summertime. You're not going to have the biggest blooms even if you prune exactly how you want, because it's hot, and the bushes just don't produce the biggest blooms in the summer. That's why the rose shows tend to be in the fall and spring when it is cooler out. So that's it from the garden. You can tell we've got quite a bit of work to do. You really want to prevent it from getting to that stage, but it is what it is, and we'll come out here and we'll hopefully finish up in the next day or two with the deadheading, and I'll show you what it looks like as we follow up. Take care, everyone, and as always, appreciate those comments. I will try to answer them when I can, either via the video or the comment section below. Have a good one, everyone.